Dr. Jeremy Weiss here. I'm founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Baby Einstein, Atari, many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. This is part of the Scubana e-commerce mastery series, where top sellers and experts teach you what really works. Scott's going to teach us what really works to boost your e-commerce business. Scubana is a software platform to manage your entire e-commerce operation. And today we have Scott Margolius. He's founder of feedbackrepair.com. If you didn't catch that in the opening statements, he helps people with feedback repair, and he helps protect Amazon, eBay sellers from bad reviews and make sure they don't get removed. He helps clean up nightmare situations of sellers' accounts or products getting banned. He spent 15 years as COO at Fimco, which is a marketing and customer service company. He is a top-rated eBay power seller and has been among the top 25 sellers in Amazon for the holiday season. And go ahead.
Top 25%.
Top 25% sellers in Amazon for holiday season. Top 25 sellers would be cool too. And he'll tell us how you get there. And even it's still impressive. You were talking about what volume and capacity is involved in that. That was pretty remarkable when you're talking about that. But we'll get to that. So first of all, Scott, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, for fixing the setup. We'll talk about what's behind you in the dark there, some of the e-commerce secret sauce behind you. But first, we were talking about some of the most common problems causing bad feedback. So that's people claiming it's counterfeit, sold as used, and people are claiming it's new. What are the other top problems causing bad feedback?
Well, there's a big difference between negative feedback and having your account be brought into review.
Yeah.
When it's like in jeopardy of suspension, and I think that they're very much related. I see a lot of cases where someone has been suspended that have their account privileges revoked, at least temporarily, because of the fact that it was brought to Amazon's attention that there was a negative feedback. They're looking at this negative feedback automatically, and they're looking at certain keywords that come up. And in many cases, if there is a claim of counterfeit, or if there's a claim of used sold as new, and then there's other ones in addition to that that can flag accounts. But one of them, a lot of the time you'll see something very simple, straightforward in that they didn't receive the product. Never received it, or it was damaged, or another really big one is not as described. So those are all kinds of things that are pretty frequent in common occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. There are obviously quite a few others. It has a lot to do with what that buyer's expectations were.
Mm-hmm.
If they assumed that the product was going to be something different than what they ended up receiving, somehow or another, you're still responsible for that. So a lot of those types of issues can be resolved if you sell via fulfillment by Amazon instead of merchant fulfilled.
Yeah.
But that's still not bulletproof. It's just better in terms of protecting your account.
Right. Because then you could say, well, Amazon didn't deliver to you, it wasn't me, type of thing.
Right. And then you're automatically protected, and there's a bias on Amazon's part to protect your account in that situation.
Right.
So that happens. Since that happens so often, and you don't have any control as a seller over whether or not something got delivered, all you can do is make sure you ship the exact product that was listed, make sure your product is in new condition, make sure you packed it well, and make sure you shipped it in a reasonable time frame so that it is received by the EDD, the estimated delivery date. And that's about as much as you can do if you're merchant fulfilled. But everything changes if something happens in the process of between the time it left your doorstep, or between the time it left Amazon's shipping center and the time the customer receives it. And even after that, a lot of the time what happens is customer will receive a product and be unhappy with it for whatever reason, or they'll want it for free, so they make certain claims because those specific claims are the only ones that can be made in order for them to be able to get the product for free, get a free refund, and not have to pay return shipping. So there's a higher likelihood of those types of claims because those are the ones that buyers know they can use in order to be able to cheat the system.
Yeah. And obviously, like you were saying, the negative feedback can then end up triggering your account to get reviewed, and then obviously banned in the end. What are other things that you see that cause people to get negative feedback?
Maybe if the product is damaged
Mm-hmm.
when they receive it. Maybe if the product packaging isn't the same. Maybe if the customer just doesn't understand the feedback system. I see that happen all the time. They'll leave 3 stars and say okay, or they'll leave 3 stars and say thanks. Amazon views a 3-star feedback instead of neutral, like you would assume, and it's called neutral. It actually counts against you in your metrics.
Really?
So that happens fairly frequently.
Hmm.
Um,
So,
oh, and the other thing that happens probably as much as anything, statistically, is they didn't receive it in the time frame they expected. And on the contrary side of that, the majority of my positive feedback comes from customers who receive the product sooner than they expected.
mm.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
So how did you discover that 3 stars works against you? And what can people do about it? Because I would think it's
Uh,
neutral.
I don't remember. I mean, it seems fairly intuitive once you figure it out. I mean, you can look at all your metrics and they show you the statistics,
Yeah.
and you can determine, hey, why are these 3 stars counting against me? And I think it was at that point when I first realized this doesn't make sense. Why are they calling these neutral, but they actually count against me?
Yeah.
Um, I assume that it's probably stated somewhere that most people would know that.
So what should people do?
You should try to have them removed. There's a mechanism for that. When you go into Seller Central and you go to help, and then you click on, let me see if I can pull it up real quickly and I'll walk you through it. If you go to, how much of this are you going to edit out? I've got a lot of strange.
I don't edit anything out.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's... All right, so if you go to contact us,
Yeah.
and then you choose performance.
Hmm.
No, you don't choose performance. You go to selling on Amazon. The funny thing is they're changing this all the time. I used to be able
Yeah.
to walk people through it really straightforward and not miss a beat, but they change it all the time, and different types of accounts have different types of interfaces.
Mm.
So it's really interesting. There are at least 3 or possibly more interfaces that people see.
So we'll make a disclaimer of at this moment in time, this
Yeah,
is what it says. Yeah.
And it changed since 2 weeks ago as
Is
well.
there a
I mean,
search function people should use, like get feedback removed or something like that may be more standard?
This is the easiest way. You can either go to contact us,
Mm-hmm.
depending upon which page you're on, or you can go to help and then go to contact us. Let's see if I can do that. Sorry, I'm having to look at my screen beyond my other screen. I've got 3 screens up. And then you go to selling on Amazon, and then you go to customers and orders, and then you can put in the order ID of the feedback that you want to have removed.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I can't tell you what happens because I don't have any negative feedback, so I can't.
Of course you don't.
But then typically it'll ask, do you want to have this removed? And then it will either remove it for you automatically because it meets their criteria, or you will have a response and you'll have an opportunity to choose from either 4 or 5 different things. And
Mm-hmm.
it just depends. If you're an FBA seller, most of the time you would choose this is an FBA issue and it should therefore be removed for that purpose. But there are some instances where there will be something else going on that the reason why they would remove it has nothing to do with FBA, even though you're an FBA seller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you have to have kind of a bag of tricks
Yeah.
that help you get things fixed.
So Scott, do you get most phone calls and emails from people who are in dire straits, or do you get more just people, I need to remove these 10 negative feedback? When do people come to you?
I'd say most of them come from people trying to make their account situation better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get too many, maybe a few a month, I'd say. of people who are in dire straits.
Yeah.
What I have realized more often than not, usually these days, if that's a whole lot of caveats in a row, that um, some of the feedback that people have that they aren't getting removed or aren't concerned about or aren't doing anything about puts their account in a lot more jeopardy than they realized.
Yeah.
Those issues need to be attacked proactively and aggressively as quickly as possible. You
Yeah.
can't just let them sit there because of the fact that it really can affect the health of your account.
Yeah.
A claim like that, and you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. Let's say you get all upset. I cannot believe they're saying this is counterfeit. I'm so tired of these, thieves or whatever. You got to attack it immediately.
Right.
You can't let it sit there. And there are a number of different things that you can do beyond that. I mean, for instance, you never let a performance notification go unanswered. You have to look at every single one. I had one customer who had 80 performance notifications that they had never even looked at. I couldn't believe they still had an active account. Part of the problem is you can't tell their system for showing you the performance notifications and tracking them and responding and seeing what responses are is really, really poorly done.
Right.
Like it's almost an afterthought. There's not a real system or ticketing method or anything like that that allows you to see what you did or didn't respond to or what you said, any of those kinds of things. Essentially, a lot of the time, what I'm encouraging people to do is take a performance notification, and instead of just looking at it, actually respond, even if they don't want you to, or even if they're not requesting you to, and open a case so that you can get a specific response.
Mm-hmm.
And get it on record that, hey, I did something about this, more than just clicking all the way through to the special note that they wanted you to read and help.
Right.
It especially claims of counterfeit or used sold as new, those kinds of things, I think it's very important for people to take action on in order to protect their accounts.
Yeah. So Scott,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I can't believe you didn't tell me this wasn't going to be edited.
This is just a natural conversation, whatever we talk about.
What if I was nose or something?
Well, you can do that too. So what's the biggest nightmare that you've seen that you had to clean up?
I mean, I've seen a number of them. I've seen one customer who had a buyer claim that their product was counterfeit. They had purchased $50,000 worth of that one ASIN, which is pretty deep to buy into a particular ASIN. I mean, they had gaylords of this stuff sitting around.
Yeah.
And, some of the best practices for responding to something like that, let's say you just have 3 that you picked up and you bought your product via retail arbitrage or something like that, it's not a big loss to have a claim like that. Right. And for defense to be, I'm going to delete this ASIN out of my catalog, which, by the way, everybody should do. If you have ASINs in your catalog that you're not currently selling, that you'd have no stock on, you should go in and proactively delete those ASINs out of your catalog. A lot of the time what that means is you archive it first and then go in and delete it.
Mm-hmm.
But you see a lot of notifications come through where they're saying, hey, you are not authorized to sell this anymore. Or you see issues where you have these kind of vestigial ASINs still in your catalog that you didn't do anything with, you didn't think anything about because you no longer have stock on that, and that doesn't mean that you're protected just because you don't have stock.
You just need to clean it out.
You got to clean it out. So one of the things you go in and proactively do is, I'm taking care of this and I'm being very aggressive by going above and beyond, and I remove this ASIN from my catalog. Well, in this case, you're going to put $50,000 at jeopardy by saying, I accept full responsibility, I'm sorry I removed the ASIN. And, a lot of the time, for me anyway, the majority of the things that I've purchased for resale are specifically for the Amazon platform. Like, I wouldn't have purchased them to sell anywhere else. I'm not going to sell them at a garage sale. These same things aren't going to sell nearly as well on eBay. You're hosed if you don't have some sort of other outlet.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't apply as well. Let's say if you're a Skubana customer and you've got multiple marketplaces where you purchase something with the eye in mind that, hey, maybe you can sell it on Rakuten or Sears or eBay or whatever, maybe you're a little bit better insulated from that kind of issue.
Yeah.
in this case, we approached it very aggressively. We asserted, the authenticity of the product. We proved the provenance of the product. We provided all the invoices and said, this buyer is incorrect. They don't know what they're talking about. We've been selling this exact type of product in this industry for X number of years. We're the authority on this subject. You can look it up on Wikipedia. And we said, we need to be reinstated to be able to sell this product, and this customer's wrong.
Yeah.
And we got that. We were able to be reinstated. So, that's an example of a ASIN-specific notification of, suspension.
Right. So what's another nightmare situation? I know you have a number of them. What's another one?
Well, I'll tell you this deal I was working on the last few days with a 25-day suspension for something that he's no way responsible for. If that doesn't give you pause and cause you to think, I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. I had another customer who was suspended for at least 15, but maybe 19 days. I can't remember what it ended up being in total. He's losing between $11,000 and $15,000 a day.
Wow.
You've got to be diversified. That's one of the advantages of being in a marketplace, having a marketplace product that allows you to get your product into multiple different, selling venues. So you have more eyeballs on it than just Amazon.
Yeah. So what did that person do? They were losing $11,000 a day. Why'd they get banned, and what'd they do?
They were banned for some of the products that they were selling were a 3-pack with 3 different specific things, and in some cases maybe one of the 3 things was missing, or maybe one of the 3 things was a different color than what the buyer was expecting. And I think that they had about 7 different things that showed up as issues, all sort of seemed to compound together. In their case, they got rid of 3 ASINs completely out of their catalog and said, we're never going to sell these again. And a couple of others, they said, these are, genuine. We're not selling anything that's counterfeit. We're the direct manufacturer importer, but we're not going to continue to sell this product, or we're going to have it improved, or whatever. I can't remember the specific argument. Essentially, they took responsibility for it, but said, we're going to improve the process for this. We're going to put more eyes on quality control. We're only going to sell this product via FBA, those kinds of things.
So were they shipping it out on their own, or were they doing FBA in those circumstances?
At that time, they were in the process of transition. They had some products that were FBA and some products that were merchant fulfilled, and I can't remember the details. Yeah. But that's definitely a nightmare scenario, right? Where down for 15 or 19 days, losing $11,000 to $15,000 a day. It's just unbelievably scary. I'll tell you another thing that I've seen several times is, unfortunately, competitors coming in and just sort of ruining things for people by being particularly shady in their dealings. And so I've seen that happen most often in certain categories, like something around cell phones or cell phone cases, specifically in nutraceuticals, along those lines. Private label brands of vitamins, let's say. I had one customer I worked with who had a goal of having at least 50 different private label offerings in the, let's call it the vitamin space.
Sure.
Right? His specific intention was to have this many ASINs and for none of them to be on the first page. So he didn't want to be found on the first page. And his reason for that is he had noticed that when he had been on the first page, he drew a lot more attention from competitors. So he wanted to be able to fly under the radar consistently without having to draw attention from people who are going to try to hurt his account. He would rather have, 20 sales a day consistently on 50 ASINs than to have 100 sales a day and risk losing his entire account or risk being banned from a certain ASIN.
So what are some of the shady, what do people do?
I really don't know exactly what they do or how they do
I
it.
mean, do they put like negative? I mean, I'm just thinking, do they go on and put false negative feedback? I mean, what do they do to
That's
ruin
one of the
people?
that's one of the things they'll do is they'll have false feedback. They'll hire a shield buyer, let's say. I mean, I can think of a number of different ways that somebody could do something like that. I hate to even talk about it
I'm just
because
thinking, like, if someone's
you
out
know,
there and they're, what's that?
I wouldn't even want somebody to have these ideas. It's like, let's talk about how to make a bomb.
Right. I'm just curious, like if someone like an honest seller is not even thinking that someone's gonna come in and do these things and something happens to their account and maybe their sales drop, maybe they'll realize maybe this is why, maybe not, but it may open their eyes. Like for me, maybe I'm just too naive and I think the good in people and I'd be like, oh, sales just dropped. And
Right.
maybe it's something else that, oh, a couple negative feedback came in and that's weird, and not thinking anything of it. And I don't even know how you can really counteract that per se. But
There, I think there's some things. I think it's more important to talk about the kinds of things you could do to counteract it,
yeah, go
right?
ahead.
Because it's such a difficult situation when you have the mindset of being the best you can be and everybody's playing fair and it's a level playing field. That doesn't exist,
Right.
unfortunately. But if you always think that way and never think about the fact that you have enemies, then you're going to get taken out. You've got to have some sort of method of defense
Mm-hmm.
other than just being better than everybody else.
Right.
Unfortunately, I mean that's just kind of the name of the game. I mean it's offense and defense at the same time. And so it's interesting, I'll play basketball several times a week, and nobody likes the guy who only plays offense. Even if he scores all the points for the game, and he's like, wow, he's just
They hate
shooting
that
the
person.
three. They don't like that person.
Yeah.
He's selfish. He's a ball hog. All these kinds of things, and you get the same kind of thing if all you ever do is play defense. If I
They
play
like you
defense pretty
more.
well.
They like you more, but
They like
yes.
me more,
Yes.
but they still get mad at me if I have an open shot and don't take it.
Right, right.
Right? I mean, I certainly have I have a specific role that I usually play,
Yeah.
and I can be relied upon to have great defense, even if my offense isn't that great, and that works really well most of the time.
Yeah.
But if you have an open shot and don't take it, or if you have a layup and miss it, oh boy, people get upset, justifiably so. But I think you have to be well rounded all the way around, just like that's what you need in your game plan for selling products, especially if you're a private label seller.
Yeah. So then how do we counteract those things? Like you said, we don't want to give people the ingredients to build a bomb, even though I'm tempted to do that. What are some things they should do to counteract what people can be doing to their account when they maybe see them on page one?
When you see what on page one?
Like let's say a competitor sees you on page one. What are some things to do to counteract?
At some point you have a little bit of built-in protection, right? I mean, you can be so big that you're pretty safe. Maybe they'll go after everybody else. Maybe the guy who's the person with ill intent just sort of writes off the person who has 1,300, 4.5-star feedback. And they're like, I'm never going to compete with that guy, but all these other guys, I'm going to try to take them out.
Mm-hmm.
So he would buy their product and leave negative feedback about it, which would not be negative feedback, but it'd be a review, product review,
Mm-hmm.
and say, all kinds of horrible things about that product, or, why it's not as good as something else, or why all the other reviews are very suspect. And, you should pay attention to this and try to write something compelling in some cases that would lead other potential customers to think, I should question
Right.
why all this feedback is so positive. But another thing you'll see is they will just through sheer numbers try to build the negatives, right? And in cases like that where you have negatives that are being built up and they're not verified reviews, I think that Amazon's putting some systems in place to try to deflate that methodology. And I've actually worked with some private label sellers to have those types of reviews removed. And I've been successful with that several times. it's not the same as having negative feedback removed. If you ask me to have your negative feedback removed, I can tell you without even seeing your account or knowing the nature of what those negatives are, I'm going to help you. I'm going to be able to get some of that fixed, and I'm going to be able to help your metrics. And I've always been able to help people with that. But when it comes to getting negative reviews removed, it's almost more of a it's a best effort.
Right.
You know, there's some certain things that you can do that are helpful. And I mean, everything I'm doing is white hat. I'm not doing anything that's gray hat or black hat. So I can tell you that there's some ways you could do that, but I don't do it.
Right.
So
there's no true way to insulate yourself besides just being proactive. And if something comes on your account, going after it, if it's because it's not true or something like that.
It's kind of the best you can do. I mean, I'm sure that if you sat around and looked at specific situations, you could come up with strategies to counteract those types of issues. And I like doing that. I mean, I don't like seeing people be in that situation, but I like coming up with those kinds of solutions. And a number of things that I've developed to help people with their accounts with that kind of insulation is not only do I recommend that everybody be FBA as much as possible, but I also recommend that they include inserts with their products.
Yeah, tell me about that. Yeah.
Well, you're essentially trying to get this customer to come to you directly instead of go to Amazon. So even if they're a thief, you still want them to come to you instead of Amazon. Even if they're unhappy for any reason, you still want them to come to you instead of Amazon. And, a number of people have some misgivings about that. There's a little bit of debate. It's like, well, isn't that the purpose of FBA? It's like, well, yes, that's true. But if you truly want to protect your account, you'll siphon as many of those complaints and concerns away from Amazon's customer service as possible so that you get to handle them directly.
Just have them email you on your website. They don't have to post it, and it doesn't become negative on your Amazon account, but you can still handle it.
You want to handle it before it ever gets to that point.
Yeah.
And you have to be very careful with that. You don't want to violate the terms of service when you create those inserts. And it's a balancing act to make sure that you don't overstep the line. The number one thing that you've got to remember is that Amazon considers all these customers to be theirs.
Mm-hmm.
If you're merchant fulfilled, they expect you to provide just as good, or if not better, of a customer experience as they do. But at the end of the day, they still consider all these customers to be theirs, and they hold you responsible if there's a fault of any kind. And if it looks in any way, shape, or form like you're trying to siphon these customers away to your own website to be able to make future sales directly, then that could be a real issue. So one of the things we've done before when we're trying to be, ultra conservative is we've taken all the draft language of a particular insert, and we sent it off to seller performance or somebody, in help, seller support, to review the exact language and basically give a stamp of approval. So at least you have something in the record as a case that you can point to say, hey, if let's pretend that a competitor bought our product, with bad intentions, and then they saw this insert, and let's say they turned us in. We wouldn't ever want something like that to be able to be used against us. So you got to be clean all the way around. But it's an excellent practice for everybody to engage in.
Yeah. So what's the balance there, Scott? Because on one hand, FBA, people should be doing FBA. On the other hand, obviously, diversifying in these inserts, you're going to have to fulfill on your own, right?
No, you can include them with your FBA product.
Oh, how do you do that?
Especially if you're private label, because then you can design the whole box. You can put whatever you want inside the box, all that kind of thing. I mean, it's a little bit more challenging. You got to be a little bit more creative if you're doing retail arbitrage, or even wholesale from a vendor or direct from a manufacturer, to try to get your insert into that package when you're shipping it off. That's a little more challenging, but I think in a lot of cases it can still be done.
Yeah,
it can definitely be done with bundles. You can do that with bundles all day long because you're creating the bundle.
Yeah, you'd have to have your hands on it first and then put it and then send it off to FBA, as opposed to someone has it manufactured and then sent directly to Amazon, right?
Yes and no. Yeah. I mean, not necessarily. You might be able to have the relationship with the manufacturer that they would do that for you. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, if you don't want to handle it, then you'd send it to a 3PL, or some sort of a fulfillment center, packing and shipping and kitting and all those kinds of things, and that'd just be one more they do while they're labeling it for you.
Yeah.
If it's not being shipped directly from the wholesaler or the manufacturer to FBA.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Because that is, what can you do to diversify? What other things do you recommend people doing? Because that's a huge theme I see you talking about. Because one of the people get stuck if all their stuff is on Amazon, they get banned, they're pretty much up the creek. So what should they do to diversify more? So inserts is one.
The answer, inserts doesn't necessarily count as diversification. I know one seller who's an Inc. 500 business, right? He does the majority of his sales on his own website, and he uses Amazon as basically marketing to get people to his website, because as of right now, until I think the end of October, I can't remember the exact deadline, that you still can have the Amazon product ads where you can get people's attention on the buy page to siphon them off to come to your site. So he's using that methodology right now to grow. Basically, the biggest referrer for his own website is Amazon, using those ads.
So they're getting rid of those?
They're phasing it out, so they say, as it is. Now, there are a lot of changes like that they say are going to take place that never do. So I'd say, gosh, if you're using that, make the most of it. And ultimately, it doesn't sound like to me they're completely getting rid of it. It sounds like it's just going to be changed to look a little bit more like the text ads on Google. Instead of having images. So even then, it still might be an effective, thing to pursue. It certainly will be worth looking into. He also runs ads on, various different platforms beyond just Google. If you're looking at some of the other search engines, which I think get overlooked quite a bit. And, depends on your industry. It depends, your particular website, maybe Instagram has the best opportunities for you. Maybe it's Pinterest, maybe it's Twitter, maybe it's Facebook. There's just so many other things beyond just AdWords, and some of those other platforms are a lot less expensive, a lot less competition.
So what other ad platforms? You mentioned AdWords, and then what was the one? What would someone look up to do that for Amazon? You said there's a specific one on Amazon. What is that called?
That is Amazon product ads offered by them themselves, and they have a number of different, advertising functions. I've only used one of them, I think, and I can't remember exactly which one it was. It's been a while.
Yeah.
There are whole devotees of some of the different strategies and tactics that you can get from having used that, because in some ways it looks a lot like a AdWords account in that you can deploy a specific campaign, and from having done so, you can gather all these keywords that Amazon thinks are the best keywords for your particular product, and then you can take what you've learned from there that was more of a shotgun approach and develop your own targeted, sniper approach to get traffic to your particular product or to your website.
Yeah.
And there are two different. I'm talking basically about two different products within Amazon, but they're both very effective, very useful.
Yeah, Scott. So on that subject, for you or your clients, what else do you see that's working for diversification? Because I do see people just depending almost solely on Amazon.
I think it's basically a number of different answers to that, right? In terms of your business model, in terms of where you are from an entrepreneurial perspective. I think everybody, or for the most part, people should be looking at having a diversified portfolio on Amazon. In other words, across multiple categories, across gated categories, using multiple different techniques. I mean, they should look at their inventory as almost being a mutual fund, right? So you wouldn't want to be all wholesale. You wouldn't want to be all private label necessarily. I mean, people are killing it in every single one of these ways, but what happens when something happens?
Right.
And so, and you avoid so many different issues like the cyclical nature of sales of a certain type. Let's pretend you're selling only barbecue gloves. Okay, they probably only sell really well at certain times of the year, right?
Right, or certain parts of the country, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to, there's so many different reasons to be diversified there in terms of let's say you have several private label products and your goal is to get out one new one per X, per month or per every 2 months or whatever. Let's say you get into selling books and maybe you have a particular number of niches within books that you're focused on. You could do retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, you could do wholesale, closeouts, all these different things. You could create bundles, and each one of those certain areas has all of its own tactics and strategies and ways that you could gain advantage. And I think many different ways that you can gain advantage and make your product offerings distinctive or insulated against competition, that makes the most sense. Nobody really lots of people are making a lot of money just selling widgets. Okay, I sell 20 widgets a day, and I've got 1,000 items in my catalog, and some are selling 20 and some are selling 10, and that's not nearly as exciting as having some true depth on your bench of the products that you're selling. I bought an entire pallet of one particular closeout, and it sells awesome for me, and the margins are outstanding, and I'm the only one selling it. Another reason why you want to have things like that is because I had another product that was great. I was buying it for $5 a piece, and I was selling all day long for $25. It's not the most incredible margins in the world, but it was super reliable, and I was selling quite a few of them. Sold out. I went to reorder, and I found that all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of nowhere, there were at least 10 other FBA sellers. Before, when it was just me. Then all of a sudden, I had 2 competitors. I sold out, waited a month, was going to reorder, and I didn't place another order because there were at least 10 other people competing.
Really?
And they were all in a race to the bottom and driven the price down to the point where I would still make money, but I didn't care anymore. Wasn't excited about it.
Right.
So
how does that happen? They just research do they have certain tools that they're using to find this out, or are they just observing certain categories?
I don't know. I know what I do. I developed a product research tool that...
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because this is, spy tool or research tool, whatever you want to call it.
Kind of. Basically you upload a list, and it tells you which of the products on that list are ones that you might want to focus on to sell. It's that simple, essentially. And there were 3 of us who developed that. There are 2 of us who are still operating that research company now. And that's what I use when I have a huge list that I want to look up. But there are certainly a lot of other ways that people are, functioning to find their key areas that they want to focus on. There are a lot of great tools out right now.
Have you released it to the public yet, or is it only for you right now?
Well, it's in beta, but it's fully functional. Anybody can use it. It's Indable, INDBL.com.
Okay.
We've actually got somebody who has started using it, and they are educating a large number of other sellers. They have a pretty good following, and they're telling us, hey, this tool is amazing. It's the first tool we've ever used that worked the first time we used it, and that does everything that we want it to do. And we're excited to push this out to all of our students. And so, that's pretty exciting, because we love opportunities like that.
So whether they use this tool or another tool or research online, how should people best use a tool like this to improve their sales or to find new products?
There are probably 10 different ways you can use the tool. Once you get your research back and you sort what it is that you're looking at. So let's say you sort it by sales rank, and then maybe I always filter out everything that's a higher rank than the target area where I want to be looking, and I'll take that and I'll put it to another worksheet within the same workbook, and so I didn't lose that data, but it's not my area of focus at the moment, because let's say I have 800 items and all of a sudden I boil it down to, okay, here are 10 items that are within the area I want to focus in terms of having an active, decent sales rank on Amazon today. Then I'll take that and I'll narrow it down further by what's the best margin. because basically we can search by any keyword. So you choose your column of keywords that you want to search by, whether that's UPC or ISBN or ASIN or product description. Obviously, the narrower that information, the better information it is that you get returned. So the narrowest information might be the UPC. So you search by UPC, and then you identify the column of your price that you want to search by, and we'll bring back and give you everything else that's coming from the Amazon database in terms of sales rank or FBA margin or MFN margin, all those kinds of things, number of sellers, the feedback of those sellers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the next thing I would sort by would be, let's say, I really don't want to sell MFN anymore. I just don't have time. And I barely have time to sell anything at all. It's interesting. Like if I see a really good deal, I might jump on it. But more often than not, I'm actually doing research as a value-added opportunity for some of my customers. They'll want new product. I've got one customer who has 27,000 SKUs deep. I mean, not just one off, but deep in FBA right now. They want to grow that to 100,000 SKUs, and they're willing to pay me to bring new information to them so they can continue to increase that. So it's a unique opportunity because I've got a lot of different things I can research. A lot of opportunity there to provide this information to him, and I'm not taking advantage of it anymore. At one point, I amassed all that for myself, and as I've moved more and more away from selling and more toward helping other sellers, I don't have as much use for that at this point.
Yeah.
So
it's got the obvious question, which you may not be able to answer, is because it's privy information to your clients. But when you first start selling, where do you find good deals?
Again, it depends, I think, a lot on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Are you RA? Are you OA? I mean, let's say for online arbitrage, people a lot of the time subscribe to lists, right? So they pay X number of dollars, $25 a month to get 10 deals a week or something like that. There are all kinds of opportunities like that. I've got a friend and partner who does that just for shoes, right? So there's a lot of margin and opportunity in shoes, so he's focused on shoes and he's become an expert there. And you see that for all kinds of different offers. And so essentially what's happening is somebody's curating a list of subscribers, and they're using, more often than not, VAs, virtual assistants, who are going out and finding these deals and providing them to the subscriber curator to be able to push those out to people in their network. So that works out pretty well often for online arbitrage, but a lot of the time people will just, they'll go to every single deals opportunity. So they'll go to, I think, Brad's Deals, and they'll go to, all the different deals sites, or coupon sites, or Retail Me Not, or whatever it might be, to maximize their spend. They'll go to raise.com and get a discount on the gift card, then they'll use their credit card and get their 3% or 5% cash back.
Right.
And by the time they're done, they've got whatever, 25, 30% off or more off of their purchase, and it was already the best deal available, and that's where they get their margin proposition opportunity to be able to sell it at a better price on Amazon, make money. So that's all that, like, as far as where people finding their deals, that's just for online arbitrage, and there are a ton more tips and tricks beyond that just for online arbitrage, and then you just take that and move that over to every single different type. I mean, people are paying $5,000 a class to learn how to do private label.
Right. What does someone have to do? I mean, let's say someone's growing at a larger scale, like your client. I mean, 10,000 to 20,000 SKUs, or 27,000 to 100,000 SKUs. What do they do in that case?
There are a lot of people out there who have basically more money than they have opportunity. They would basically be able to spend as much as they can wherever there's opportunity to take advantage of. So there are some people, it's like, you could hire somebody who all they do is search for you, or you could hire 10 people like that, and all they do is go out into the field and find retail arbitrage stuff for you. So you see that happening all the time. Let's say you're in some major city and you've got 10 people who go out every weekend. You've hired them, part-time or as a contract basis. You've given them scanners, and you've given them all of your different priorities for what you're looking for in a product, and teach them how to do what you do, and they go out and buy all this stuff for you. You could do that. There are booksellers who do that and who have expanded to multiple different communities. So they've hired somebody to go out in their city, and they're expanded across the country, where they've got people who essentially work for them looking for certain types of books and doing scanning all over the country, looking for books. Yeah. So, I mean, essentially, there are so many different ways to grow. And going back to, what you're asking as far as diversification, the answer is anything. You could sock your money away and buy car washes, or, storage units, or, build your own website and develop your own product and sell on there. Be building a brand. I think people should do things that they're good at, right? Assess what you're the very best at and what you enjoy doing the most, and capitalize on that, so that the work that you're doing doesn't feel like work, but is still something where you're able to be successful and gain an advantage.
So let me ask you, so on that example, Scott, of the books, right? Let's say someone grows and they have 10,000 SKUs of books, right? And they're the book specialty. And let's say they decide they want to go into barbecue equipment, right? Okay. Do you think that they should sell on the same account or open a different account? And if they do they have to notify Amazon so that their book account is not affected by it?
They would need to notify Amazon if they wanted to open another account, because they were really entrenched in a certain, type of industry, or certain, they're all books, and they want to move into barbecue. So, hey, I want to open an account that sells specifically for my private label, or for barbecue products, whatever. Right. I would go ahead and apply for that, and notify them and say, this is what I'm attempting to do. I'm known as a bookseller, and I don't want to commingle my. It wouldn't be commingling. There's a specific thing that means in Amazon world, but I don't want to join all my product together under one tent.
Right. It's not like you want to buy Huckleberry Finn and a pair of tongs for your barbecue. Like, let's say they want to just separate it out. Could that negatively affect their other account? Like, is it not even worth it at that point to branch out? And
I wouldn't say that. I think that would be potentially a valuable opportunity to diversify.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious, because I know a lot of people, they want to diversify, and they may not want to. Maybe they're known as a certain specialty and may not want to just bring those same products. It doesn't make sense, and their current audience may think it's strange if they're seeing that.
The hardest thing in the world to me is to do something you're not currently doing, that you're not good at. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody that I run into most of the time, the reason that they're successful is because they're doing what they do, and they're really good at it. They are the best in the world at what they do. They know all the best strategies that give them advantage. And so there's the one client I was telling you about is 27,000 SKUs deep and wants to be 100,000 SKUs, but now he's also saying, hey, help me get into private label. I'm not really sure if that makes the most sense in the world or not for him, because he doesn't, at the end of the day, he doesn't really necessarily want to be selling widgets. He's a really intelligent guy who would like to be building apps and selling apps, or selling software, bringing it to the level of having it be a startup that's launched that solves a certain problem. I think that would almost make more sense for him than to just jump private label at this point.
Right.
Now, if he could do it all, that'd be fine, but he doesn't have this team that can take all his ideas and develop them for him. He has me, and I only have so much time, and I think he should probably do what he's best at. And so, since he doesn't have this experience with private label necessarily, maybe it would make sense for him to leverage his knowledge, since he's been selling for 15 years on both eBay and Amazon, leverage his knowledge to create these unique apps that solve problems that nobody else is solving.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah. And Scott, so I wanted to ask too. I was reading some of the statements of customers, and one person said that they thought you were so well versed in psychology. They thought you had a psychology degree because you were well versed in dealing with angry customers and with reviews. So, what are some of the ways you get into that mindset and head of the angry customer, and how should people respond?
I don't know if I can get into the mindset
Okay.
because I'm not a person, but
You know what I mean?
I
Like you respond in a way that,
I know what you're saying.
yeah.
I mean, essentially, you want to diffuse the situation. The
But
first
they
thing
were
you want to.
something you did really impress them. What did you do to? It seemed like you must have diffused a seriously angry customer.
Well, it was interesting in that particular case. He had just found out about me, and he was wanting to learn more about what I was offering, and didn't really identify himself, and was wanting to see was I a real person. He went to my website and got a hold of me, called me on the phone to see if is this a real company? Are they even going to answer the phone? And he was really just testing me. He was, essentially almost playing devil's advocate with an argument that he was creating, to test me, I guess.
Mm.
And he was, I think, being difficult on purpose just to see how I would handle him,
Hmm.
essentially. And I was able to answer all of his questions and give him some confidence about the fact that this is real. And I was able to then explain various answers to difficult questions that he brought up about how to handle various situations. And
Yeah.
I think it became apparent to him that this wasn't just some sort of,
Mm.
you know, throw up a shingle type of deal.
Gotcha. So on to the top 25% during the holiday season.
Okay.
So what are some of the things that worked to do that?
The biggest thing I would say is having volume of inventory. You really need to be preparing for Q4 right now and even prior to now
Mm-hmm.
in making sure that all the stock you've been selling fairly well throughout the year you have enough of, and being, you know, not necessarily inch deep and mile wide, but a mile wide and maybe deeper than an inch. Because the biggest thing is if you've got something that has velocity right now during the rest of the year, you're going to really see that increase as the months go on, October, November, December. And really, you want to make sure that you don't sell out because you can sustain that volume of sales and increase your price over time as other people start to sell out.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a number of things like that. I mean, some of it is almost one of my customers is a former commodities trader. And, when you get inside of the way that they think about consumers and the way they think about markets and the way they think about consumer behavior and all those sorts of things, you begin to, I mean, he's got this incredible knack for being able to time things and being able to pick
Mm-hmm.
popular items and being able to um, basically source things that are unique, that have limited availability, where he's able to double and triple and quadruple and even far, far greater the price on these things.
What else, Scott, do you find if people are selling on Amazon, what else can help them boost sales that you find works for you?
I think you can certainly do some things with keywords that
Mm-hmm.
help drive traffic to your products. I mean, I don't know that that's specific to Q4 types of strategies,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever
but
strategies you find. It could be as little or as big. Obviously, even with the Q4 strategies, if someone stocks up, how do they, I mean, you don't want them to stock up and then they just have all this in inventory. How do they actually sell it out so they're not stuck with the inventory?
I mean, it's very challenging. I mean, every single one of those buying decisions is unique in terms of
Mm-hmm.
strategy and how somebody found something, how they differentiated themselves.
Yeah.
You, it's not the kind of thing where you really want to just throw something at the wall and see what sticks.
Right, right. So can you
It's
talk about something So you're not giving away any competitive advantage, but something that maybe you're not selling anymore, and like your thought process of why you originally bought it, and why, and then how you stocked up on it. Is there an example that
Okay.
you can give?
Yeah, hang on just a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So I can't even remember how long ago it was that it was over a year ago that I bought this, but I stocked up on these. It's a Duck Dynasty. I'm sorry, Duck Commander ball cap.
Okay.
I bought these in brown and green, like OD green, and I probably purchased. I'm just guessing because I don't even know. Maybe 250 of each, along with some Duck Commander fleece blankets and some Duck Commander keychains and some Duck Commander cups. And they did really well for a while, and then they just completely flopped, fell off the face of the earth. And I ended up bringing back hundreds of dollars of inventory from Amazon that had been sitting there for too long. And I just missed the boat on that. I think I got in too late. I got into a product that was a little bit speculative. I was thinking, okay, the sales rank is such and such when I bought it, and it's going to get better over time because the demand's going to increase and more people are going to buy it. And I kept my price too high for too long, thinking that I'd be able to maximize my margin on it, and it was a huge failure. I mean, complete mistake. Now, today, to get rid of these things, it would make a lot of sense to create bundles. I could create various Duck Commander bundles that I think would probably do pretty well over the holidays, and I could get this stuff moved out of here. But I just don't have time.
Right.
And I just, I can have an idea like that where I could at least break even or get my money back or even make some money, and I just don't have time to mess with it. It's too much trouble.
You have other things that you're moved on to.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just I used to collect items that I thought, okay, I've got a brand new pair of aviation headsets. I can't remember how much I paid for them. I've had them for 2 years. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think about it all the time. I paid $10 or $15 for them, and they're going to sell immediately for $160.
Wow.
And I don't have time to mess with it. It's awful. I bought a mobility scooter for $50, and then bought $100 worth of batteries to replace the originals. And when I list that thing, it's going to go for $800 to $1,000. I don't have time to mess with it. I don't have time to change the batteries. I don't have time to get the pictures taken. It's horrible. I've got a
yeah. Keep going with these. These are good. Yeah.
I've got a Budweiser Blimp pool table light that I bought for $75, and there's another one listed right now for $500 plus shipping.
Wow.
I went out and bought the light bulbs to replace the bulbs that are in it. The thing's intact. It's in pristine condition. All I have to do is clean it up, take some pictures, and get it listed. I don't have time. And it's a bad situation in terms of it's very obvious to me that I can't focus on selling things the way that I want to when I can't even get them listed. And obviously, they're never going to sell if I can't get them listed, and they have to have eyeballs on them, and right now is the time to do it because I should be taking advantage of what's going to be a busy, holiday season. And I recognized that I had collected over 10 pallets of books, and I, collected them over time from various different resources. Excuse me. And I knew I was not going to get to it. Right. I knew I was not going to have time to scan these things, so I weighed them and sold them basically by the pound to somebody I found through a partner, Peter Valley, and he found somebody. He found several people, and this guy just happened to be, I think, an hour and a half away. He drove down, picked him up, helped him load his pickup, and he had to come back and load it again. So I kept probably 4 pallets of books, and probably not very smart of me, I just went and bought 2 more pallets of books and a pallet of records. And the bad thing about it is I've never sold a single book or a single record, but here I am sitting with at least 6 pallets of books and a pallet of records, and it probably doesn't make sense for me. Like if I was my own client, I'd say, "What the heck?"
Right.
Right? And unfortunately,
You'd
I'm a
knock some
lot better.
sense into that person.
Yeah, yeah. I really need to sit down with people every once in a while and say, "Hey, what do things look like from your perspective?" And unfortunately, all my friends come into my warehouse and they're like, "Hey, this stuff's really cool. It's like Kid in a Candy Factory," but they're not giving me the actionable advice that I'd be giving to them if they were a client, to tell them you need to do this and this and this and this and this is a huge
Mm.
mistake, and change this and that kind of thing. And I mean, it's kind of an issue. It's like I developed a stupid meme that I probably shouldn't have spent time developing, with a picture of Leonardo da Vinci, with a quote saying, very few people know this, but the inside and outside of my house needed to be scraped and painted, right? And it's just like, I'm not trying to compare myself to Da Vinci or something, but it's the whole story of the cobbler's kids don't have any shoes.
Right, right. So what
So to me,
about,
it's kind of embarrassing.
what's your best idea that people should steal that you're not going to use, Scott? Or this product has huge margins, you're not going to do anything with it. Someone listening, maybe like they're going to go run with it. What would you tell them?
I don't know if that exists or not.
No. Well, you
As soon
mentioned
as you,
one. I mean, the one about a couple of those products that you mentioned
well, no,
before.
I don't mean that. I mean that if you're a client, I can give you that. I can tell you which direction to go in. I can give you some specific product that makes sense for you to sell that I'm not currently selling.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that for you all day long. As soon as I say, hey, everybody should sell barbecue mats, it's no longer a good idea, right? As soon
Well,
as you
only
mention it,
people who have listened this long in the interview get this.
it's just going to happen, right? You'll if you're tracking the number of people who, if you have some sort of service that tells you how many people actually
Yeah,
watch to this
I
point.
do. Yeah,
So of what's it going to be, like one
usually
hundredth of 1%?
20% ish,
I'd be
20% who
shocked.
start the video.
I'd be shocked. Now, if they're listening to it in the background, they have speakers and they can hear it anywhere in their shop, maybe. Not that you're not doing a great job. I'm just saying that's a lot of content for somebody to take
Yeah.
in, right?
Well, I could
Especially
also send an
if
email
it's really bad.
saying listen to minute, 71, where
That's a
Scott
good
is
point,
going to tell you the actual product that he's not going to do anything with that has a $100 margin for you.
right? I had a product like that, and I just gave that to this one guy.
Hmm.
It's like, no, I'm not going to do anything with it. I don't know why on earth I didn't buy it. I had 2 different vendors like that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm going to give him a third one. These are things I already researched. I already picked out exactly what I wanted to buy. I already knew
Right.
exactly how much I wanted to spend, and I never did it. I was like, well, I might as well give it to him.
Yeah. That should be a premium subscription on Indible. Like premium subscribers get your researched like top 3 products or something. You only like allow certain premium members, and then they get your researched products.
That'd be pretty slick, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about building out something that's similar to that. We've talked about,
Because they don't
selling
want to do
our.
the work. People don't want to do the work. They just want you to tell them what is going to
That's
sell.
why. That's why I offer so many done-for-you services.
Yeah.
I can tell you how to basically do everything to remove your own feedback, but
Mm-hmm.
most people don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the clients I'm looking for are the ones where they want me to do that for them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So what about
I mean, I've got,
eBay?
I've got one client. I've got one client with 4,000 negatives and neutrals.
4,000?
Now, yeah, 4,000,
Wow.
and he doesn't want to do that himself.
You can't do that yourself.
No, I probably can't. That takes too much time. I'm gonna have to hire some people.
You need some negative feedback repair, apprentices or something.
Basically, I
Yeah.
mean, I have people I could use for that, but this is more. I see more of a need to have more people like that who are highly trained and skilled, that I can trust and my clients can trust to do that on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm.
Because I obviously have to replicate me, and then if they run into an issue, then I can help them with that.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's the thing that makes sense, that this becomes more of a commodity instead of a service.
Mm-hmm. So what about, Scott, we didn't talk much about eBay, and obviously we're talking about diversification on Amazon, and then off Amazon would be eBay. You're a power seller
Right.
there. What should people know about eBay and how to sell more there?
There is one tool I can mention that I really like,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, Joe Lister does a good job of taking everything that you have in your Amazon inventory and cross-listing it on eBay.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know specifically. I haven't had enough of discussions to find out exactly what options there are for Skubana to do that,
Hmm.
because it may do the same thing and not charge you for it. So, I mean, all of a sudden that becomes pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
But if that's not something that Skubana does, then I would say, hey, Joe Lister's probably the way to go. If you're not to the level where you jump into something
Yeah.
where you're willing to pay, 1% of your profit to Channel Advisor or whatever.
So how did you discover Scubana?
I didn't say profit, but gross sales or whatever.
Yeah.
I met Chad at a show, had an opportunity to talk to him and learn more about his product, and I like what he's developed in terms of having something that's fully integrated and end to end,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's what a lot of customers are looking for. If you're not going to be able to hire somebody to do all of your Amazon stuff for you, or you don't have a done for you type of service for any type of function that you need, then the very next best thing is to have everything fully integrated into one unified dashboard. And so I really like what he's built and the concept behind it. And it just makes a lot of sense in terms of streamlining your operation and maximizing your efficiency.
Yeah, so Scott, like you were saying, with that type of software, you said it has everything in it. What did you find was missing in other things that it actually had?
Most of the tools you see only do one thing. They're focused on their one area
Mm-hmm.
where they have experience or a skill set, what have you. Either that, or maybe they pull in two or three and try to be a Swiss Army knife, but only thing good in their toolkit's the spoon. The knife's just okay. You sure wouldn't want to try to live the rest of your life on the knife and the Swiss Army knife and not have any other options of sharp tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just they they don't do the job. They
Yeah.
don't accomplish what they set out to do. Or if they do, they're super difficult to work with, or they're super expensive. I mean, Chad's got a tool that seems to do a lot of things really well.
Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of stuff that we talked about here, Scott. And one, thank you so much for your time. This has been hugely valuable. Anyone who hasn't listened to this point is missing out. One, two, tell people where they can find you. What websites should they check out? And I'm going to ask you one last question.
They could go to feedbackrepair.com. I'm about to launch amzcoaching.com. I'm doing account suspensions with Nate McAllister, who runs the Facebook group FBA Today.
Hmm.
And you can find us with accountrestored.com. Indbl.com is for the product research. I think there's some other ones, but I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I should just have people check out feedbackrepair.com and then /shop. You have, it's interesting, you list everything from free then down to the, most premium service, but you do have a free book, Beyond Reputation Management ebook that, people rave about as well. And in my
Everyone
opinion,
loves to write a letter or make a phone call. I mean, it's good actionable stuff in there.
yeah, in my opinion, when I was looking through it, the one feedback repair and everything else, I was like, yeah, he should raise the price on that. But if I ever need it, I don't want you to raise it. But I was like, yeah, one feedback repair, I'm like, increase that for sure. But the stuff is a steal from what you have on there, I think.
The interesting thing about the feedback repair is normally that's the first point of contact, and I get an opportunity to help people with all the other
I
areas of
see.
their account that maybe they haven't been paying enough attention to.
Yeah,
And so, in some ways, it's almost like a loss leader,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I've also tested that price over the last year and a half to 2 years, and it's just very strange. I mean, I've had the price up to $25.95 or something like that, and it doesn't convert. and then
Really?
I've had it as
Wow.
and I've been back and forth. I mean that's
I'm
for
surprised.
some people that's just too much to pay for some reason. I
Hmm.
think a lot of what people don't necessarily understand is it's a there's no loss to it, right? I don't charge for feedback that isn't removed. If you
Right.
pay for feedback, you will either get that feedback removed or
Or you
you'll
don't
get a
pay anything.
full
Yeah.
refund.
Right.
Yeah, it's a no loss situation.
Yeah.
It's 100% guaranteed.
Yeah. So, Scott, on that note, since this is the Skubana e-commerce mastery series, my question is, what are some of the best to end? What are some of the best actionable tips people should use to take action on right now to increase their e-commerce business? If we had to boil it down to just one or two, what should people start doing right now that'll have the greatest effect on their business?
I hate to tell you
No,
and
don't hate.
answer
Yeah.
this way, but
Maybe
I
give me
don't
a
know.
negative
I don't
one.
know if I can give you broad-based advice
Yeah.
that everybody can apply and get benefit from.
Yeah.
Everything I do is completely custom,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I can't tell you that I specialize in being a generalist
Yeah.
to that to that degree, right?
Fair
It's
enough.
like the stuff that helps you lose weight is not the same thing that helps somebody else lose weight.
Sure. How about, fair enough, I like that answer, but I'm going to push back on you for a second. And so tell me, what about a client? Give me I mean, you don't have to tell their specific business, but who came to you and one of your piece of advice really hit home for them and made a big difference, and they told you that.
You could have given me that question in advance. Um,
I mean, I have a couple on here. Like you may have one of these. I know Wade had something interesting. We talked about Wade. Um, Wade had a situation where Amazon removed his listing, and he
right.
couldn't. I don't know if you gave him a specific, because you don't just give advice on removals or negative reviews. You're giving some strategic marketing advice too for people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll help them in every area where they need help, and some
Yeah.
people have areas of expertise that it's gonna far exceed mine. But I feel like I have enough breadth of experience that
Hmm.
there's gonna be something that I can do to help almost anybody.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, one area would be, okay, I had a customer who had been working out of his garage, right? And he just didn't want to pay the overhead to get warehouse space.
Hmm.
But he was also working 80 hours a week. So we try to figure out, okay, what can we do to fix this problem? So we tried to, work it all backwards and figure out what is a meaningful solution here that doesn't involve a lot of risk. So I actually helped him find warehouse space.
Hmm.
I encouraged him to find warehouse space, helped him find warehouse space. When he got warehouse space, he was able to increase the size of his operation. He was able to hire employees. He was able to increase the inbound and outbound shipments. He was able to basically increase the entire size of his business and grow it, and have better quality of life because he didn't have to work as much.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to work 50 hours a week, let's say, instead of 80.
Right.
And that all came just because of the fact that he did it right. He was bursting at the seams. He was doing so well with his business that he couldn't expand anymore where he was. So, and that's a great problem to have, but at that point, you've got to make some sort of decision to change things. And who wants to work 80 hours a week forever?
Right.
I mean, for some people, they can do that and they're happy with it, but it's not necessarily sustainable.
Right. Scott, so what amount of time do you spend on your own products, and what amount of time do you spend on, because you have a lot of customers who demand your time too?
Right. I mean, I'm trying to keep as much time open for other people who need it as possible. And that's becoming a little bit of a juggling act, It's a little bit of a challenge. And so I try to get as many people scheduled into spots as possible.
Is that also because you've streamlined over the years what you do as far as the selling goes?
To some degree. I mean, I mentioned all the stuff that I haven't gotten listed, but then there are all the things that I have gotten listed
Right.
that are now FBA, so I don't really have to touch it.
Right.
I place the order, I buy the pallet, and then I process it, and I don't have to mess with it again. So I have a bad habit personally, not necessarily as much anymore, but with procrastinating. So I had like 8 pallets of stuff that I shipped off to Amazon in January. A lot of that stuff's still selling, so that meant that that's probably not a very good buying decision for me,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because I should have sold through it already and had to replenish.
Mm-hmm.
But in my case, that was stuff I'd probably purchased 6 months to almost a year prior, so it wasn't necessarily a timely decision. I needed my space back.
Mm.
I got it in my warehouse, and I mean I had to go out and buy 18 sections of pallet rack, or you wouldn't even be able to see me right now. All this stuff would be just right here. So um, it's just I feel like I do a lot better job of helping other people solve their problems than necessarily applying those solutions to my own situation.
Sometimes
When
it's
you ask
easier.
when you ask me for specific advice about what I do best, that's works for me,
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best advice for everybody else.
Right. Right. For sure. So.
It's interesting. I was talking to this guy who is a purple belt in uh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and has some like third or fifth degree black belt in karate and all these disciplines. Kali, and um, he was like a USA boxer, Golden Glove type boxer, and all these different pretty decent high level across the board in a lot of different disciplines. But he will still say, you take your own best advantage, the things that are best about you, and use that to your advantage, and that's different for different people. So he was a short guy who was like really, really fast. So, and he could hit really, really hard. So he takes all that and he has a specific style, and he adapts everything to that style to take maximum advantage for his style.
Yeah.
But different people with different body types and different
Right.
techniques have different advantages in different ways, and it's all the same thing for online selling.
Right. Right.
What are you best at? What are you most talented at compared to other people? Where do you see opportunity and advantage that other people can't see?
Right. Scott, this has been very valuable. I really appreciate your time, and I hope people listen to minute 71 or whatever is where you give away all your secret things that you haven't done anything with. But I just want to be the first one to thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I hope we'll get to talk again and have completely different topics.
Yes, for sure. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Thanks for your time. Take care.